Hi everybody, it's Erika of the Knit Kind podcast and Grapefruit and Gardenia Designs. It is the morning after Rhinebeck. I know a lot of you went because I was there surrounded by all of you, which was wonderful and impressive. We'll call it impressive. There were so many knitters and fiber enthusiasts that I spent the weekend with, and then others of you are dying to see everybody's recaps because either you wished that you had been there or you didn't wish that you had been there, but you enjoy seeing what everybody else participated in and purchased. So I'm here to give you a little bit of insight to my Rhinebeck experience. I am wearing today, and I have my microphone in there because I didn't want to clip it, I am wearing the 700 Fence Posts Cowl. It's my design. This is one done in fingering weight using the DK pattern with the extended length version. So if it's a pattern you're interested in, you'll find it in Ravelry, in my Ravelry shop. And there's a DK version, there's a fingering version, and then there's an ebook with both of them and tips over about how you could use different weight yarns and follow different patterns and so on and so forth. So didn't want to forget to mention that. Okay, Friday, a mere 3 days ago, I hit the road. I left Greater Boston at 5:30 in the morning, and I had about a 3 to 3.5 hour drive ahead of me to get to Untangled, which was my first stop. So I had a 10 o'clock ticket for the first entry to Untangled. There are time tickets, so that the crowd is paced throughout the day. It helps with parking, it helps with the food vendors, and it obviously helps with all of the yarn and fiber vendors. It was a gorgeous day. We couldn't have asked for more. The entire weekend was beautiful. It was sweater weather in the morning, in fact, hat and glove weather in the morning, and by the afternoon we were peeling off layers. So I guess a knitter's dream. You could show off many things if you wanted to. And like I said, that was my first stop, so let me tell you a few things about Untangled. Number one, actually, let me just take a step back. Here's what my Rhinebeck experience video will be like. You can decide if this is one that you want to watch, or you want to watch first or last, or not at all. My experience, first of all, this was my first time going. Second of all, I was looking to connect with people in real life who I had connected with either through collaborations or test knitters or meeting new people, vendors that I've worked with in the past or want to work with in the future. I was excited to see fiber I hadn't seen before, get to see it in person, touch it, feel it, talk to the producer if I had questions. I'm always excited to see the animals. I will say they did have to wait till day 2 of Rhinebeck for me, mostly because I was taking so much in. And just to do some people watching and have fun. What you won't see a lot of in my recap or in my social media feed are pictures of all the amazing knit world celebrities. And that is because that wasn't the experience that I went for. It was fun to watch, it was fun to be around. But if you're looking to see all those photos, this is probably not the video you want to start with. So I do also want to say at the same time how important that is to our industry. I think we're so blessed to have knitting celebrities, even though I'm laughing a little bit about it, because in the end, I think many people who are knitting celebrities probably feel like they're just a person who knits who happened to end up on this pedestal. But here's why I'm glad we have it. You think about sports, you think about Hollywood, you think about all these other places where there are, famous people. And why shouldn't knitting be on the same platform? We all love it. We're so passionate about it. And if people want to get together with hundreds of other people who have knit the same pattern, or want to go up and take a photo with somebody who is their favorite designer or podcaster, I think that's good for all of us. And it also doesn't have to be everybody's number one priority when they go to these festivals or in general. So anyway, I think that just gives you a little bit of a picture of what my recap is going to be like. Okay, so back to Untangled. First, you probably want to see some stuff, right? We're 5 minutes in. Show us some stuff, Erika. Okay, I will first show you a purchase. I think this actually was my first purchase there. It is a braid of fiber. It's from Storyteller Stitchery, and this one is called Anne of Green Gables, Autumn at Green Gables. It is merino, it's 4 ounces, and you know, obviously it's just, I don't know if it looks a little bit more gold in the video right now as I'm showing it than it does here, but it does still have that like warm tone to it. It was gorgeous. The colors just spoke to me. So back to my fiber journey. Sometimes it's still about color. And I didn't get much fiber I didn't get much yarn or fiber, but I do have some fun things to show you. And this was, I think, the only dyed braid that I ended up with. But I do love spinning, and it has a special place in my heart. And that is the fiber from Storyteller. Okay, yarn. Here's what I got for yarn. I'm not going to show you all the colors, but I'm going to show you the brand, and I'll show you a neutral color this time since we just did color. North Bay Fiber is breed specific wool, and this is a 100% Targhee Polypay wool. This is a sport weight, heritage sport. Let me see if there's anything else I can read to you about it on the back. Made in America with American wool, 100% sourced, spun, and hand dyed in the U.S. It tells you the county in Michigan it's sourced from, that it is also spun in Michigan and hand dyed in Michigan. And of course, probably many of you already know that this is Jill from North Bay Fibers. She was wonderful to chat with. Thank you, Jill, if you are watching this. I really liked talking to you, learning a little bit more about your yarn and ways that you partner with designers, and I'm very excited to do something in sport weight with color work, and I have a lot of fabulous colors in my bag. So here, I'll show you one other color, but I've got a nice little palette in there. Look at that. Doesn't that pop? So, surprise, there's going to be a fun palette to come with those. That was actually the only yarn I bought at Indie. Now, I do want to mention a few other yarns, and I'm going to show some pictures because I took pictures of things, one that I might want to go back to that day, and quite frankly, to some extent ran out of time because you do have this 2-hour time slot, and the next time slot was sold out, so we couldn't go back in right away. And also I needed to pace myself for the weekend because I knew a lot was ahead. But I'm going to insert some photos. Now I'm looking back at my photos, I kind of wish that I had a sweater quantity of this. And if I were just personally shopping and not shopping as a designer, I think this would have been one that I would have scooped up on the spot, impulse buy, but impulse buy that I would not have regretted. It was from Beautiful Sister, and so Beautiful Sister has Beautiful Sister and Natural Sister, and some of it is done with botanical dyeing. They had this tweed yarn. Oh, it was so good. I'm kind of like having a moment right now. But I took a picture of one of the women in the booth wearing a sweater made out of it, holding the yarn in front of her. So I am going to insert that so that you can see it and maybe have FOMO with me because I didn't buy it. But that's okay. We can't buy it all. If you did buy some, comment underneath this and tell me what you're going to do with it so I can have some living vicariously through you. She also had beautiful bags and some really pretty, she had ice dye there, which, as you know, if you've watched some of my podcasts, I like to do ice dyeing as well, but she had ice dye fabric, which I think came from Spin Cycle, and then just some botanical natural dyeing as well. And there was one that was really pretty on the table that I took a picture of, so I'll see if I can put that in here at the same time. One of the festival sponsors was Mitchell Wool. I didn't know really about Mitchell Wool. I'm looking to see, I don't have a card from them down here, but I did take pictures. So again, you're probably not even looking at me anymore. You're probably looking at all the pictures on whichever side of me I put them on. Mitchell Wool was really interesting. A good, we've talked in other podcasts before about where do you go to find these natural wools or breed specific wools or ethically sourced, sustainably sourced. So Mitchell Wool is one that I would definitely say I don't know a lot about, but I will go back and learn more about. And if you're looking to do color work, they had some really nice options. Murky Depths was another one. Again, I don't think I have anything from them here, but I'm going to show you all those great pictures. So Murky Depths is one I wanted to mention. And then the other one that I wasn't ready to buy because I wasn't 100% sure quantities and what did I want to do with it. I do sort of wish I went back and got one to swatch with, which was my intent, but I absolutely ran out of time to the point I would have had to sneak back into their building, and that's not my style. So I'm sure you know them. I've heard about them for years, Sea Change. And I had never touched their yarn in person. So what's very nice is I got to have a conversation with Sarah, who's the owner, and I did get to see it and feel it. And there was one in particular that I really had my eye on for more of a warm weather weight. So whet the appetite on that one. Let's get back to showing you some things that I did buy. How about that? This was 29 Bridges. Now 29 Bridges had almost like a double booth, I'd call it. And they had beautiful yarn. They had, I believe, superwash and non-superwash yarn. But you know what got me? Sock tubes. So I've talked about it before, right? I love a good hand knitted sock. I love a good cranked sock. I'm not going to spend the time doing it, not because I don't like it, just not my go-to. I'm like, my fantasy is that I would have a tube in my bag at all times so I could pull it out and knit on it when I don't have other projects, or when I find myself somewhere like, I don't know, knitting in the grocery store line. But I haven't gotten there yet. And I have done the giant tube myself, where I cut it and I do an afterthought, heel, toe, like you do one tube, so you got toe and cuff, and then you have to cut into it to do heel, cuff, toe, heel. So I've had some experience with this, but look at these. First of all, this one matched my fig sweater almost perfectly. And so I kind of knew this one had to come with me because I've already got a sweater to match it. So, I mean, come on, right? That's a no-brainer. And then they give you the little heel and toe accent colors. And out of one tube, and this is really what sold me, this is what sold me probably on getting 2 of them instead of 1 of them. From one tube, this is doubled up. So when I undo it, you could get 2 pair. So I don't know, you could make one really long and one shorty. You could make 2 average length. So I got this one, and then I liked this moody dark one. Again, I've got an umbrella over my head, so you're not getting all the great natural light, and it came with these 2. Some really pretty tonality in here. So these are superwash, 75% superwash, 25% nylon. And it's a whole tube, so it's one skein of 463 yards. It's a 60 stitch, which they did put right on here, 60 stitch circular sock machine that they're done on. And although I am doing much more with non-superwash, and I'm good with non-superwash socks too, this was more like these were done and they were there and I liked them. So those were my Indie Untangled purchases, and a couple other photos that I'll insert of vendors that I do want to keep in mind for the future and look back and maybe check out their websites throughout the year or see if they're at another festival. Hudson and West, Why Not Fibers, Lamb Strings Yarn, Red Stag Fiber, and I think those are the ones that I made the most notes of. There were other beautiful vendors, fantastic vendors, but those are my highlights from Indie Untangled. One other thing to mention, this was really fun. Keep an eye out if you go to these festivals for people that you know. Boston Fiber Company was there, and as you know, I'm from Greater Boston. It's not my most local yarn store, but it is a local yarn store to me. We are just too blessed around here. And Sarah was walking around, and I got to show you what she gave out if you recognized her and said hello. One, she had these adorable minis. So this was a little Boston Fiber Company Baker Street fingering, which she gave out. I should show you, it was in a little bag. And then here's just the cutest. So in addition to adorable stickers, and yes, I'm a cat person too. We got my little cat sticker here, the Boston Fiber Company sticker. Then check this out. Not only did we get a Camp BFC sticker, but a patch. Isn't this so cute? So if you have looked at my patterns, you might have seen the Fells cap pattern, and when I designed that, it was after I had taken the class with Brooklyn Boy Knits through Knit Stars years ago. Well, sounds like a decade ago, not a decade ago, but when I first started designing. And I made a hat there that you could put patches on the front. And so when I saw that patch, I was just like, oh, that's so cute. I think it would be really cute also if you've done I sold a hat, the Musselburgh hat or Musselborough hat. I think that would be super, super cute in the front of that. So for anybody else who got the patch, or hat, sounds funny, who got the patch from Sarah, Boston Fiber Company, maybe think about, if you're looking for something to do with it, putting it on the front of a hat would be really, really cute. Okay, where did we go after in the Untangled? Well, actually, I should mention too, I'm going to put some more photos in. We had lunch there. They had some neat food vendors, and we sat down and we just chatted with, new fiber friends, formerly strangers, until we sat down and had lunch with them. And I chatted with a bunch of people there. Loved seeing their sweaters, bright pops of color. One woman had crochet, and she had a sweater that was like cinnamon buns. That was really, really neat. I'm not a crocheter, as I say, yet, but that would be a super cool sweater to have, that one with the cinnamon buns. And did we meet somebody? Oh, and I met a woman with a sweater that had beaded bees in it, which also was one I had to take a photo of. So, of course, the people watching and all of the fiber that everyone's wearing is just fantastic. So we went from there to Perfect Blend, which, many of you probably know, is the local yarn store in Saugerties. And the two things, it's a very cute local yarn shop. You've probably seen it on other people's highlight reels in past years. I know that some people have done full tours of it. So I won't talk too much about it. The two things that were the most noteworthy to me were the section where they had their own yarn, and some of it was alpaca, and holy smokes, that was nice. It just, these big skeins of the softest alpaca that they have custom done for their store. And the other thing is they had an In Pursuit of Tea special pop-up, I guess. So this is a sample I brought home to try, Golden Glow. It has some turmeric in there, so I wanted to try that one. But they were very good. I'll tell you here, it says, In Pursuit of Tea explores remote regions worldwide to find the finest teas. We seek out hand-picked and handcrafted teas from small farms that represent the best in their category. And so I liked this. It is fairly local to me. So we talked about maybe doing something at a local yarn shop together and finding somebody who would want to collaborate and doing something, I don't know, with maybe one of my designs and some of her teas, and thought that would be fun. So it's not all about yarn and fiber, even though it is largely about yarn and fiber. Friday night, we then went to a Woolen affair, which was something that you could go throughout the day, and it was more of a festival feel, and then at night it was more of like a get-together feel. So they had merchandise still that was a Woolen affair branded, but not like yarn shopping. We were there, we enjoyed music, we enjoyed food. I went with a group of women from my local yarn shop's knitting group, and we saw the comet go over. So does it get much more magical? We had just finished eating, and we stood up, and I think we were going to go back into the building for some music, and looked up at the sky, and it went across. So I don't know, it's super cool. It's like seeing a rainbow when you're driving home, or there was so much just beautiful foliage all around. It was, and trying to think of the name of the farm. I'm drawing a blank. It's like the Red Fern Farm. I'm probably completely making that up, so forget it if I get that wrong. I apologize. And what else about it? Oh, the drinks were good. We all had different things, but I had a warm apple cider with bourbon in it. That really hit the spot. It was cold. We got to wear our knits, had on even hat and mittens, and I could have stayed there all night. I wish I had kind of had a cozy spot to sit and knit, and I think if it's something that I do again in the future, that will be my goal, is to get there early, stake out a nice spot to sit and knit and just really enjoy it, which is what it was all about. Okay, we're almost 20 minutes in. I'm gonna take a sip of water. It's actually fitting that my Knit for Food stamp is on, or sticker is on here, because I'm gonna tell you a little bit about a line friend and a little really short Knit for Food story as well. Okay, here's the program. Isn't that cute? So cute. People got a lot of swag. I didn't get any swag this year. I got a lot of free bags when I bought stuff, but no swag. So here's something, again, it's not yarn, but it's wool. This is from Yarn Hero. I'm going to show you the more colorful one first. This is hand-dyed pre-felted fabric, 100% wool. Isn't that pretty? And I got two. I got this one for me mostly because I love the colors, and I'm going to do something with it for me, but I don't know what yet. And this one, which is more the moody, darker colors. And if you open it up, there's sections that are, gosh, this one shows the best. Isn't that funny? But there are sections that are just dark too. This one, my husband, I have knit him hats. Tells me they're still cold, that he's still cold underneath. And you know what? Sadly, I've tried on those hats and he's not wrong. I don't know why. But he runs really cold anyway. And so at first I was disappointed he wasn't wearing the hats. My son was just going to take him over because my son's happy to wear any knitted item I give him. But I thought, I'm going to try one more time for my husband. I'm going to line it with that and see if it's still too cold. But I thought that was just the neatest thing. And I knew I wanted to get some yarn adjacent treasures because I didn't want to get more yarn than I need, which I already probably have. And so that was one of the things where, again, like, we're looking to do more with wool. I have lined a hat before with like a synthetic fleece that I got at one of the big box stores, and that's fine. It does the trick, but it's not what I want to gravitate toward using. So I'm going to try using some pre-felted hand-dyed wool. So again, that's Yarn Hero if you're looking for that. And she also has very cool yarns. Let's see. And then I did get some more fiber. So let me talk a little bit about this. I don't know if I'm going to mispronounce it because I actually didn't ask them how to pronounce it, but it's like Bohlayers, Bohlayers Orchards. It's out of Troy, Pennsylvania, and it is 100% Rommeldale CVM. This is wool roving, but I also did get some yarn. So I got this. Take it out so you can see the color. Sorry, you can probably hear chickens and dogs. They're not mine. This is the gray color. It's worth it to be outside right now. It's in the mid 70s here today. And inside my house is still getting put back together. So, and this is a natural dark color. Oh, well, let me tell you, I didn't open this when I was there. This is ridiculous how this feels. This is so nice. I'd say that I can't wait to spin it, but truthfully, I'm going to wait a little bit to spin it because I'm going to wait till I have my setup fixed up more properly so I can really enjoy that fiber going through my hands. And this one is called the dark chocolate. The other one was a natural gray. And then I bought from them, I think they were probably going to sell out by the end of day one. I don't know if they had anything to restock with for day two. But I went back at the end of day one after seeing, oh look, good, I have a picture of their sheep. So, there you go. So that's why I went back at the end of day one because I don't think there was going to be any left. Not at all the breed and the feel of the yarn. It's very different, but the colors are somewhat reminiscent of the colors that I loved from Meadow-fed lamb. This is sort of in that same vein as like just a glowing white gray. I mean, it's cream, but there's gray in there as well. And then this one, which is like a medium. I don't know if they had a dark earlier. They probably did. I don't think they had any dark left when I was there. And these skeins, this one's called Beach. This one is called Paper Birch. They are generous on the yardage. So they're a DK weight. They're 2-ply, 370 yards and 4 ounces. So, you know, it's a thinner DK, but I think it blooms a lot because they had some samples there. Oh, they were to die for, the samples out here. You want to see these, you don't want to see me. They had some sample knitters knitters. I'm tired. They had some sample sweaters knit up there that were like, man, they were just amazing. And the feel of this is amazing. This is the one I was like, I'm probably going to regret not having a sweater quantity. But I can't get sweater quantities of everything and taste test. And so this was more of a taste test yarn shopping experience for me. I did not get any sweater quantities, but I do know where I will be going back to when I'm ready for sweater quantity is after I do swatches, if it's for a design. And then if it's for something that I just want to knit for myself in the future, then I also know where I'll go, right? Okay, so I've talked a bit about wanting to use fibers other than merino, not because I don't love merino, because I do, and I use it, but because merino has a lot of attention paid to it. It's the catchphrase for yarns of a certain micron count, even when the breed isn't actually merino. And so part of what I'm doing is trying to educate and promote other breeds. But sometimes there's a special yarn, and a friend directed me back to this booth, and I'm glad she did, because I had looked at it before. I have definitely seen it before, but it wasn't one that I was honed in on at this festival because it's merino. But let's talk about the kind of merino. So, Morehouse Farms merino. First of all, I wish you could feel this, because yes, merino is all soft. This is like approaching cashmere soft merino. This is not just your standard soft merino. And I really like the way that they kind of do this type of variegated and how it comes out. So I'm going to play with these. It's a sport weight. It's 225 yards in 2 ounces, but the recommended gauge is 5 to 5.5 stitches per inch. So we'll see. Cute little labels. This one's called Monet's Garden. They had a bunch of different ones that were named, and I think when we were speaking to the women there, maybe the grandmother had named some of these. It was the end of the day, so I don't know if I have all my details exactly right. But thank you to my friend who recommended I check them out. I went home with these 2 beautiful skeins, and I honestly, my goodness, I can't stop touching them. Touching yarn is just, it's its own hobby, I guess. Okay, so put those back in this bag. And what else did I buy on the first day? Again, non-yarn items, but still fun to look at. Look at these locks. Well, actually, maybe I'll take them out and let you look at them. Okay. They barely smell sheepy. They smell nice. So these locks, and you're thinking, are you going to spin the locks? What are you going to do with the locks? Well, a Halloween costume. My son wants me to be Wooloo from Pokemon, and apparently I need long, like, gray locks, maybe braided, maybe not, unclear. But I was able to get these locks, and I want to tell you where they came from. I did get something else at the booth as well. They came from Hilltop Farm and Fiber Arts. And Hilltop Farm and Fiber Arts is part of the same fiber shed that I am a member of. And so it was really nice to get to support them. And the other thing is, I have some pictures of their booth that you'll see, but in their booth, yes, they have yarn, but they also had all kinds of dyeing supplies for natural dyeing. They do workshops. Lisa, I think Lisa does all of the dyeing. Lisa, hopefully I'm getting that right. It tells you the different things they work with here. And she also makes these sheep. She had one left at the festival. But anyway, hilltopfarmfiberarts.com is their website. You can check them out. And I also there got a little something for myself. So another thing that I love, and if you've watched, you'll know, it's a fingerless mitt, but with partial fingers. And let's face it, they're a bugger to make. I made myself a pair. It's like socks. If I can buy them from somebody and they're beautifully done and I can support somebody and not be buying yarn, then that's a great way for me to support somebody. So these were dyed with madder. They're alpaca covered mitts, 100% alpaca, hand dyed in the Berkshires. and dyed with madder, which is one of my favorite natural dye colors. It's like salmon-y, corally, between orange and red and pink. I mean, come on, it's just too good. And tried them on, of course, made sure that they fit. They're nice and snug on my fingers, and then they've got the little top to flip over. So sometimes I keep those until special occasions, but I don't think it's going to make it to a special occasion. I think the special occasion was Rhinebeck, and now I get to wear them. Okay. That pile is done. Now I will tell you, oh wait, I do have one more thing I got on the first day. Okay, on the first day I also had to get some, well, I should say I started the day, my first purchase was bourbon for my husband. It was good too. I went and I was looking around, and I went through some of the barns and the vendors when I first came in first that I wanted to see. Then I made my way over to the big buildings, which have like Miss Babs and a lot of the people who have the really crazy lines because they have colorways that are going to sell out and all kinds of things. And I couldn't do the crowds. So I stepped back, I went into the food barn. And when I was in the food barn, the first booth had bourbon. And I looked at the guy kind of funny, like it's 9 o'clock in the morning. And he was like, come here and try it. It's really good. So I had this little teensy tiny sip. I know my husband doesn't watch this, but if you watch this and you talk to my husband, don't tell him I got the bourbon because I'm trying to save it for Christmas. It was 1857. I think, distillery. I don't have a card from them, but they stamped it on the bag, and that was my first big purchase. So I had them put it aside until I was going back to the car later. And then probably my second purchase was for my son, which were these. And these, if you're wondering, are wool mats, so that when you're doing needle felting, instead of those big foam mats that you get at the big box stores or the brushes that you're felting on, these are supposed to last longer. They're obviously made from sustainable material, and they're just like really, really nice. And so he likes to do needle felting. He's not super consistent with it, but anything that will get him doing things away from a screen and spending time kind of like creatively thinking, and then also spending time with us as he gets older. He's probably going to want to spend less time with his parents. So if we can find crafts to do together, I just thought that was a nice thing to bring home for him, and something I had also been wanting to try. Okay, deep breath, right? So what else? Well, I'm going to tell you about that one in a minute because I got some stuff from there on day 2. So Bare Naked Wools was another one that I didn't even really get in their booth. It was really, really crowded on day 1. And I did want to check it out though. So I kind of did like a visual look and touched a few yarns, but it was so crowded I didn't get in there very much. But they were another one that I've mentioned before, and so I wanted to make sure I saw and took a picture of to share with you all. These are a few I'm going to mention that I have pictures of. Boondoggle Farm. Flora and Fauna Farm. They had some beautiful, beautiful, beautiful yarn. I already did this one. I already did Bow Layers. Please tell me if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Oh, and that mat that I just showed you was from Dashing Star Farm. So they had a neat booth with a lot of products, as well as yarn sold by the ounce, I think, which was kind of neat. I hadn't seen that before. So those are a few others that I wanted to mention. I also took pictures of some producers who had wool from the UK, some of which was made into yarn in the US. So I've tried to do mostly US wool. I focus on like hyper local, but then also US. And then also I think it is nice to know some more global breeds. You might be watching this from someplace that's not New England or the United States. And so even if I'm highlighting something that's not local to me, it might be local to you. And even if it's not, it's still okay to sometimes use, things that aren't hyper local. So Seedale or Seattle. I don't know if it's a play off of Seattle, Washington or not, so forgive me, but I was looking back through my pictures and they were one I wanted to highlight. It's spelled Seadale, and that's one of the UK, US brands that had, I think they were the one with like a really beautiful rainbow palette, if I'm remembering correctly. Yarn Shack is another one I wanted to mention. When I went and looked them up afterwards, I can't tell if it looks like maybe they had a storefront and they don't have that anymore, but she was at the festival. And one of the things that caught my eye was this whole series of marled yarns that they had. And the marled yarns, they had swatches knit up in every single color. And I really liked being able to see that. And I don't always, marled yarns are neat. They're not always my first go-to. But this particular wall of them really caught my eye. So if you are looking for marled yarns, I would highly recommend checking them out. I did go see Bat and Kill. If you watched the episodes about the collaboration I did with the Shorn 5 yarn, Bat and Kill spun that yarn. So I wanted to check out their booth, and they also had the yarn, the Rambler yarn that they specifically make for the woolly thistle. And so it was really neat to go through their booth and see all of their beautiful products. Definitely another one that you should check out if you're interested in like a local New York mill, and much of the yarn is also from the region. And similar to that would be Sawkill. Sawkill mill also had like just stunning yarn in every weight, and the colors were beautiful, and I easily could have gone home with the whole booth. I didn't, but you know, again, seeing it in person when this is not something you get to see in person at your local yarn shop is really nice, and that is why I go to festivals. So Wing and a Prayer was there. You know, they have exceptional yarn. I've talked about it before, so I'm not going to talk about it again, but I'll show you a picture. And of course, their booth was busy as ever with Tammy, and then the different designers and samples that they had in there. She always does an amazing job. And a couple others I wanted to mention in terms of, we also talk about price point and accessibility. So Harrisville was there, and Green Mountain Spinnery were there. Anyway, those are two that if you are looking for yarn that is made locally, that is beautiful, and that is wool, Harrisville and Green Mountain Spinnery are two that you need to have on your go-to list for, like, they have beautiful yarn, and you know, I can't say enough. The Harrisville, they had their samples of sheer there, which is again something that when it's gone, it's gone. It's from a shearing, and that was very popular. And then they have their ever popular day lights, night shades. I've talked about those a little bit before. They also had Peace Fleece, which, you know, you look at Peace Fleece and you think scratchy wool, and it's not scratchy wool. It makes a beautiful sweater, indoor, outdoor, but you know, these sweaters that are just like the color work yoke sweaters, I mean, just stunning. And of course, you don't have to use it for that. You can use it for a single color as well. But again, those are two that are right up my alley. And Green Mountain, I did go back to the second day because I do want to do a design in their yarn. And, you know, I keep thinking, well, I don't know exactly what I want to do. Well, I finally just got, I've worked with their weekend wool before and I love it. And all of their other wool I've just sort of checked out, but I haven't used. So I wanted to get some to swatch. So let me show you what I got. We will start with the one I knew I was going to get, because this is something I imagine I'll work with at some point. And so I got 2 skeins of the Music, MEWESIC, so U is in there. The DK weight, 100% fine American wool. They come in 2-ounce skeins and 180 yards each. And I got these 2 colors. And I don't know how much I'll just, you know, play with them, swatch with them, maybe do like a hat or a cowl just as a test drive for a sweater. But those I think would make any color work. They have an amazing palette and would be beautiful. And then I wanted to get this one to try. So this is the Cotton Comfort. It's 20% organic cotton and 80% fine wool. Again, made in the United States, 2-ply DK. I like the color, I like the feel. And, you know, I have a few sweaters that I'm looking at designing that you could do short sleeve or long sleeve or 3/4 length sleeve. And I thought maybe this with the cotton blend would be a nice sort of shoulder season alternative to the 100% wool. And I also like, it's got a little bit of a different softness to it with the cotton in there as well. And look at the color. It's so pretty. It really is silvery. So I got that one to try. And then this one, this is the Green Mountain Green. So this is a 40% kid mohair and a 60% fine wool. It says fibers for this yarn are green spun using vegetable-based soaps and oils, and they are washed to preserve the natural sheen and resilience. No chemicals are used to bleach, moth-proof, or shrink-proof. The green spun process, developed at the spinnery, is an extension of the environmental concerns basic to our founding in 1981. And Kate and I were talking in that booth a couple of times, and I really am excited to work with their yarn. Again, I always talk about values aligning with mine, and I love that their yarn, all of the production, I mean, from the wool to the spinnery, you know, all of the pieces of it are in line, but also I like that some of it is a more accessible price point to people as well. It's light as a feather. I've made some of my favorite sweaters in it. If you've watched this podcast or seen me at fiber festivals, I am sure you've seen my son and I in our not matching sweaters, but complementary sweaters. I did the Espace Chico Baccarat, I think, bank sweater, and then for my son I did the Marshland sweater from Tin Can Knits, and we did them in weekend wool from Green Mountain Spinnery with Deep Lake as the main color. It's just a gorgeous blue, and I love them. They are some of my favorite festival sweaters. So that's Green Mountain Spinnery. And the next day, and this is the last bit of yarn that I have to show you, the second day of Rhinebeck, I went back to one of the very first vendors I went to on the first day, and that is Purveyor Fine Yarns. So I met the owner and I chatted with her a little bit, and I had not heard of them before. And again, I haven't been on this quest for a long time. And so I'm constantly meeting and finding new people who are doing something that didn't come up in a Google search. And so what they're doing is working with small farms and then bringing the yarn in, working with different mills. So they had worked with Blackberry Ridge Woolen Mill, which I had just heard about in my interview with Melissa last week, Melissa Littlefield of Knitting the Stash. They were a woolen mill who does not take new clients anymore. And so most of the mills that Purveyor now works with are worsted spun mills. And that's really just because of accessibility for keeping things local. So it's actually very similar to what Melissa was saying, although they might still work with some woolen spun mills, but I know most of their stuff was worsted spun or semi-worsted spun. And so I'll insert some pictures. They had some beautiful Corriedale, many different breeds. But one of the things I thought I'd share with you is a sign that they had and what it said. And so I'll insert the sign, you can maybe read the whole thing, but essentially what it tells you is 3 breeds that they work with, Suffolk, Cheviot, and Horned Dorset, are all very hard to felt. And so this is where, if you're looking like superwash, non-superwash, you're trying to figure out your gift knitting, is it somebody who will usually be good, but once in a while it might drop into the washing machine? Those yarns, they had samples of swatches there that had been through the washing machine and they did not felt. Now, they recommend a gentle wash with cold water and putting it in a delicates bag, but they didn't felt. And the samples they had were also like lace patterns. It wasn't just stockinette, and the lace looked no worse for the wear, really. And so I thought that would be an interesting thing to share with people on this channel who might be hesitant to use natural wool but interested in using it, and especially when we're talking about not just for yourself but for gift knitting. So Interestingly, I did not buy any of those 3 breeds because they had, and now I was going to look up the pronunciation to make sure I got it right, so I apologize if I'm getting it wrong, but the Clune Forest, and I have not worked with this breed before. I am aware of it. One of the things that I thought was neat is that it is often, or almost always I should say, like a bright white, and so they had all different colors dyed there from the bright white base, but they also had a very limited amount of this silvery gray. And so I originally grabbed like an orange and a white and a green, but then after I looked at it, I went back and I changed my mind. I didn't leave the booth. This is all within shopping at the booth. And I got this silvery gray and this maroon to go together, because I really wanted to try a different breed. It's very light. It is woolly. It is soft, but it is, we'll see. You can never know for sure until you knit it up and put it, if it's like next to skin soft. It's obviously hand, probably hat, not a problem, sweater, not a problem. It's always like right at the neckline, right, where you have to figure out. But anyway, this is Clune Forest that I wanted to try. And that's it for my yarn purchases. So I don't know, it's taken me a long time to record this. I don't know if it feels like it wasn't a lot of yarn, but it actually really was not very much yarn. Just looks like there are only a couple that I had on the list that I didn't mention. One is Hello Mellow hand spun. One is Gardenia. I can't even read my own writing right now. Organics, that was a UK-based one as well. And then one, Concordin. I really have chicken scratch on my paper right now. But those are ones that I will try to put pictures in, because if I took a picture of it, it meant in some way or another I wanted to make sure that I went back and checked it out and possibly shared it with you. So, okay, day 2. The last story I wanted to tell you is, people talk about making line friends. And I was in line for cider donuts pretty early on day 2 because I wanted to make sure to get them and see if they were really as good as everybody says. And let me tell you, they did not disappoint. I've had cider donuts. I've had a few cider donuts in my day, and they're always good. Sometimes they're really good. These were the best cider donuts I've ever had. So if you go, get in line for the cider donuts early. It's worth it. And I started talking to a woman behind me in line, I think. And her name was Sarah, or is Sarah. Sarah's from Asheville. And she had on this stunning shawl. It was beautiful. So we were talking about Asheville. We were talking about the devastation from Helene. And we were talking about her shawl. Well, I'll tie the story all together. I don't have to share all of the details of it. But she is an independent dyer. And her dyeing brand name is Skein Changer. She has her yarn at Pearl's Yarn Emporium in Asheville. And the name of her shawl, which I'll put it in here because it was so beautiful, and she did it in her own yarn, which is how we got to finding that out, that she was a dyer. It's the Woodland Animals shawl. It's stunning. It's a beautiful piece. And we were talking to her about Asheville and about everything, and I asked her if she'd ever done or heard of Knit for Food, and she hadn't. And as you know, if you've watched this, I've participated for a couple years now as a participant, and before that was inspired, by a friend who did it and knew about it. And here's something that struck me. If you've done Knit for Food, listen closely. If you haven't done it, listen closely and maybe join us this year. In Asheville, when things were worse than any of us can imagine, even watching the news, the water lines were cut off. People couldn't get in touch with each other to know if they were safe or not. Many people lost their lives, and power wasn't on, cell service wasn't on, pool water was being used to flush toilets. Groups were gathered and pooling their food together to try to use perishables first and then non-perishables and have enough to feed people when you couldn't even get on the roads once the grocery stores opened. Well, World Central Kitchen, which is one of the 4 beneficiaries of Knit for Food, was on the ground in Asheville 48 hours before the National Guard. This is meant to be no slight to the National Guard. This is meant to appreciate, show gratitude to, show admiration and awe for World Central Kitchen. I mean, can you even believe that? So if you have supported Knit for Food as a donor, as a knitter, as someone who shared the message, you know, that work is increasingly more important domestically in the United States as well as abroad. Unfortunately, these kind of climate disasters and weather disasters are not going to be once in a generation events anymore. And so I hope that you will come together with us in March. I hope maybe Sarah will join us with the group in Asheville this year. And I hope that, you know, if you're home and you're having FOMO and you want to look at some hand-dyed yarn, maybe you'll check out Pearl's Yarn Emporium in Asheville and Sarah's Skein Changer yarn that's there, and maybe get in touch with them, maybe order some yarn, support Sarah, support the area, and have fun while you're doing it with her beautiful yarn. So that's it. I met a lot of great new friends. We've connected on social media. We'll continue to do so. I got to meet Melissa Littlefield and Spencer in person, and that was so nice. We met on the hill on day 2, not the craziness of day 1. And the scene there was just beautiful with the foliage and the light. It was so nice. The skein to shawl competition was so fun to watch. I'll put some clips in of that. The animal parades, seeing all the animals in the barn, all of the different breeds, the leaping llamas, all the things you hear about. If you are on the fence about going to Rhinebeck, go. Keep in mind on the morning, on Saturday morning, it took me 12 minutes to get there from my hotel and an hour and 20 minutes to get back to my hotel. After which I was so tired that my roommate and I went to a fast food place in the parking lot instead of going out anywhere else afterwards. But it was equally fun to do that. And that's what Rhinebeck's about. It's about the people, the stories, the animals, the vendors. I hope you have enjoyed my recap. I'm not going to do editing of this, I don't think, just to put the photos in. So I guess I do have to do some editing. But that's it. Enjoy. If you go next year, say hi to me if I go. I've got to figure that out, but hopefully I'll be there again next year. And in the meantime, knit kindly, live kindly, and I will see you next time, everybody. Bye-bye. Look at the nice